Welcome back, artists. So today we're going to be finishing up building our clay snowman. The first thing you want to do is very carefully take your clay out of the bag. You might notice that it got a little bit stuck, so you're just going to carefully peel it off. And it might not be a bad idea to just set it on top of the plastic bag so it doesn't get stuck to your work surface as you are working. Now, the other thing you want to make sure you have is your wooden stylus, because we're going to be slipping and scoring today. You'll need a container for water and then your extra clay. Two of the expectations for this project are that you have things that you add to it, so they should stick out. So I'm going to be taking some of this clay and I'm going to be making it into shapes that I want to add on to my snowman. The other expectation is that there is a pattern. I'm going to start with the things I add on, and I think I'm going to add on, I want this to kind of pop out, so I'm going to make like a coil. So I just took a little bit of clay, and I'm just rolling it on the table. And I want to make sure that I get it long enough and thick enough so that it can go in between the earmuffs. So I'm going to take this part off. And then I'm going to scratch, so that's the scoring part is scratching. I'm putting light little scratches where I want this coil to go. And then I'm going to also scratch on the coil, the part that's going down. So this is the scratching part, the scoring. Next, we're going to add some water. The water is the slip, and I just take my finger and I dip it in and I fill in those cracks I just made. And finally, I'm going to wiggle this on. So I want this to really stick, so I have to give it kind of like a little wiggle. And as I do that, you should start to see, you can start to see the water coming through the cracks here. And that tells me that I have a good connection. Now this got a little bit long, so I'm going to break that off. So I want to stop by the earmuff, and maybe even I'll take my finger and smooth that down. Do that on this side too. Smooth it down so it's a smoother transition. And then I can also take my wooden stylus, because there's a little bit of extra gunk in here. I can just take this and kind of clean up the edge. I can use my fingers too if I need to. And that piece is slipped and scored on. I could take some of this as well, and I could make little circles, and those could be my eyes. The trick here is to try to get them the same size. And then for the nose, I want this to be more of a pointed. So I'm kind of pinching it so that it'll be long and skinny, like a carrot. And then maybe I'll think about making that flat part so it just sticks out a little bit. And then let's see, I need a mouth. So again, that could be a coil. And then finally, my pattern, which is something I can draw. So I'm going to first draw the line between the scarf and the face. And when you draw, you might notice that it makes some clay crumbs, so you might have to clean off your wooden stylus. And then I'm drawing these lines down here. Whoops, that one was a little crooked, so you can see how it makes a really big clay crumb. And I'm going to go down here. Take my fingers and get those clay crumbs off. And then I can draw my pattern right inside that clay. So that is another way that you can create It's another way that you can create designs in your clay. I'm trying to, on purpose, not have these line up, so it looks like they're different. I should be going the other way though. So now when I push that in, do you see how that kind of closed up this line? I gotta go back and fix that. So it's nice and neat. Now that you are all finished with your snowman, you have slipped and scored all of your parts, you have a pattern that you have either drawn in or created with clay, it is time for you to turn it in. The first thing you want to make sure that you do is double check the back and that you can read your name and class code clearly. If this is not written clearly, it's going to be really hard to get it back to the correct person. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do is when I was adding my patterns, I created a bunch of clay crumbs. So I can use my extra clay as a clay vacuum. So you probably did this when you worked with Play-Doh when you were younger. But you can just use the big chunk of clay to pick up the little chunks of clay. And this extra clay, you can just keep it at home. And then you're going to very carefully put this inside your bag. Make sure the air is out. Make sure that this is zipped tight. And then as extra security, you can put it, you can fold it over and put the weight of the clay on top of the end, so that will help keep it closed. The other thing you could do too is on this on the Ziploc bag, there is some tape. You can take a Sharpie and write your name and class code on there, and that will just help to ensure that even if your name is hard to read, I can tell whose it is. And then you're going to put your class code on there too. And then this will get turned in at your next supply drop-off.